Recording.
Isn't really prepared to do a presentation.
Great.
I can, but which there's a recording that everybody can watch of
Great.
that presentation.
Great.
So
No
if you mean like the whole presentation, there's a recording and every person in this room can go watch it. The other thing is, given the language difference, it's very easy for us to create a translation and put it up on a website.
Yeah.
If we took yesterday's presentation and did a Spanish translation, because that's pretty straightforward for us, would that help you?
Great. Yes, I asked that because I want to share the tool, and maybe it's good for your work. But I have questions today.
I mean, what I can do is I can play a short video that shows you what it does. And I can also pull the tool up live, but we're right in the middle of a bunch of changes. So where those changes are is a little wonky. And so I'd rather not do a live demo right now.
No
but
problem.
Next week, I could totally do a live demo.
Great.
And I can share what it is and kind of why we built it. A little bit of backstory if you're interested.
Okay, yes, maybe we can start with that. But before of that, I have a question that the people made a lot. So let's start with that. Well, given that many in our audience are either just starting their journey in gamification or early in their careers in the product design, we'd love to hear about your own beginnings. Could you share a bit about your very first jobs in the tech or design world? Perhaps some early lessons or pivotal experience that shaped your approach to building these engaging products?
Sure. So I come out of science and engineering originally. And while I was getting my PhD in neuroscience, I put myself through grad school by programming, because you could earn 3 times as much as you could as a, science aide. So I started by building software to help scientists do their jobs and to help doctors and scientists collaborate together. Oddly enough, in many ways, I'm still doing that. But that's where I first got started, was as a builder. I then worked at Sun Microsystems, which is very early internet provider, very iconic company, and became a UX designer. I worked at Paramount Communications and Viacom, the entertainment companies, and became a game director and producer, because that's how we did things in those companies. And then I launched my own company, and I've worked since then with a combination of game studios, lots of startups, and then global iconic brands. So our work has spanned all of those. The way I got started and the way that I navigated my career was, as almost everybody in this field, very opportunistic, right? Opportunities came up and I took them. Sometimes I'd have 2 or 3 opportunities and I'd make a choice. Sometimes during lean times, I'd take opportunities that I had mixed feelings about as somebody running a company. But what I've always done is steered toward the future. And my career and how I went from being excited about game mechanics when I first discovered them to understanding how to create a product journey that the mechanics can support, which is a big shift. How I went from that was by building and launching and failing. So the best advice I could give everybody, especially in gamification, is really focus on getting things out in the world into people's hands. There's so much of gamification that is completely uninformed about what happens after you launch. And everything in my career has been about what happens after you launched. Even at Sun, we were building multimedia databases and supporting our clients. And our clients were like the Department of Defense and the NSA and also hospitals. And, you know, I was grappling with the morality of tech very early, which is, oh my God, our product is going to the NSA, who is the agency here in the US who spies on US citizens. That's the NSA. And I was, you know, young and like, oh my God. But then we support hospitals. Oh my gosh, look at all the good we're doing. So that's tech often. And I learned how to launch engaging products through working with larger teams on hits. So I was on the original design team for The Sims and Ultima Online, an early MMO, and Covet Fashion, a breakthrough mobile game hit, and Rock Band, a breakthrough console hit. So I worked on these, and Replica, which is a breakthrough AI hit. So I've also worked on lots of projects that failed, right? You'd never heard of. But I was on the creation team for all those hits. And so a lot of, when I say I steer toward the future, when I worked with those teams on those products, I had known the teams for years before that, through doing earlier products, through going to conferences, through writing fan letters and saying, I love what you're doing. If I'm in town, can I visit you? Right? Relationship development is incredibly important, to not just be transactional about relationship development. All of the, I mean, it's amazing that I worked on those products, but it really was a product of relationship development and then developing my own skills. So the role I played on a lot of those products, I did UX design, I did strategy, I did some research, and I did a bunch of systems design, like making the spreadsheets and working with the team and building in the sandbox and balancing it. And see, you know, there's all this stuff that goes into systems design, systems implementation. And because of my tech background and the way in which I learned, I came up through engineering and programming, I don't engineer and code and build the systems, but I design them. And to do that, you have to understand quite a bit of math, and also just having the experience of building a complex multiplayer game or eBay. I worked on eBay and I did systems design for eBay. But that, I think this is an emerging skill. And we talked about this yesterday, but if any of you are UX designers or work with UX, and you came up through that, you'll probably feel, if not now, then soon, that this field is going through a huge disruption. I see nodding. Yeah, we could talk about that a bunch. And so I'm building a bridge because I see it too. And my blessing and my curse is I see things early, right? I'm here in Silicon Valley. I teach at Stanford and USC. I like kind of get tapped in to what's happening. And there's a big shift toward what some people call product experience. That's what Duolingo did. Some people like Airbnb call it experience design. Some people like Shopify just say design. But what everybody's grappling with is that we're shifting away from screen design, because the UX can do screen design. I mean, the AI can do screen design. I use it for screen design now. I was a professional UX designer for years. I use AI now. I'm not literally, like, especially for the first version, right? Especially to get your first draft. Things are changing. But what's happening is the way that we're all becoming more dependent on AI and integrating AI into our systems, whether it's just by like using it within a services context or actually tapping into APIs or building and training your own models, it's everywhere. least in my world. Is it everywhere in your world too? Okay. So what skills do you need to manage that kind of world? System design. You just do. A lot of us UXers, we learn task analysis. I took classes in task analysis. I'm like so good at task analysis, right? Beginning to end. And I see Google design sprints and they're like, here's how you storyboard. And they show you a task analysis storyboard. And that's great. Task analysis is great. Beginning to end. Buy an airline ticket, buy a product, do this thing. If you're designing experiences, those are subsystems within this overall integrated system that's going to be balancing different subsystems within it. That's how marketplaces work. That's how multiplayer games work. That's how all these systems I've worked on and like tuned work. And so what I see in this shift toward experience design, toward how do we work with AI is, first of all, we got to train the AI, think about data gathering, think about personalization, think about all these things. Once you're there, you're building systems. You have to, you can't just think of those as features or they won't evolve. Systems evolve because the data comes in, right? So that framework of thinking about the customer experience, the product experience, the game experience, the patient experience, if you're in digital therapeutics, thinking about that as an integrated, always balanced and changing system with subsystems within it immediately helps you shift from UX to product experience. So that's a big aha I've had in the last year or so, is just seeing this shift and seeing what succeeds in the market, right?
Great. I was listening and I was like, the bells were ringing. But this last month, we read a lot about the death of the UX and the transformation to product design, and the people were like crazy because what's about our profession? It's missing out, but it's a transformation, like you said.
Well, it all depends on what your goals are, right? And what I've seen in tech, having been in tech for decades, is that the name of what I do changes all the time. So I've been a lead engineer. I've been a UX designer. I've been a product director. I've been an executive producer. I've been a creative director. I've been a system designer. I've been the, lead beta go-to-market. I was that for a while on Rock Band. Even during Rock Band, when I worked with that team, the name of my role changed as the product headed toward market. So to me, change is a constant. It's like, what's needed? What skills do I have? What skills am I missing? How could I acquire those skills? But I think what happened with UX design, from my perspective, and I really would like to open up like a conversation because I want to know what you guys think. But from my perspective, which is shaped by who I work with startups and game studios and big global brands, right? From my perspective, what happened to UX was it got codified. You use Figma, you show high resolution, beautiful mock-ups to your stakeholders and to any potential customer, because we don't want that to get the wrong impression. We can do Figma walkthroughs. We can run design sprints and do a crazy eights exercise because we learned that. Like, it got really codified with the right way to do things. We do agile, and I've seen people do agile in the most ridiculously non-agile ways. But people are people, and UX turned into a machine. And especially at the bigger companies, right? Because I get to see the range of company sizes, but also at smaller companies. And screen design doesn't deliver a compelling product experience.
Great.
And so if you think about UX, there's a lot of visual design in UX. Let's take visual design and put it, it's its own skill. Visual design is its own skill. Let's talk about the product experience. The product experience has, you know, you're really acting at this point like a product manager. If you're designing a product experience, starts with strategy and business. Of course you think about business. People are like, should UX designers think about business? This is actually a ridiculous question. Of course, unless you're like trying to make a factory. And so there's a whole, like, you even start there because it drives everything. It influences everything. And there's a whole experience design that most UX designers have no way of visualizing, which is how does the customer's experience change over time? Simple as that. What's the journey? Our tool, Journey Maker, solves that problem and puts it into your hands so you don't need to know how to do storyboarding. It just answer a few questions and you can make a storyboard of your journey, because it's really hard to do without a lot of training. That's why people don't do it. So, and then there's screen design. And in many ways, I think this might be helpful since you guys are interested in gamification. So I myself have been through this whole journey in my career where I took a bunch of classes in graphic design and layout and, you know, the basic Gestalt principles and the wonderful stuff that if you're my fellow designers, you know what I'm talking about. Did all that, learned how to do screen design, learned how to do navigation, loved it, got really good at it, and then realized that when I was trying to design social systems for marketplaces or multiplayer games, I was lost. I just like that didn't get me there. So I went from like pride and like, I love this. This is what UX is all about, to like, oh, hit a wall. And then look to other areas like storyboarding comes from movie making, but a lot of game studios use it too, because they're designing not just a week in the life, but a year in the life of a player, right? So those techniques complement screens. And I'm on a mission to spread it because I see this shift and I have so many UX designer friends out of work. It's a brutal market. And I also see a lot of UX gurus poo-pooing AI and saying systems aren't that important and who cares about jobs to be done. And I'm just like, great, get left in the dust. All of those things are important because we're in a new era. UX is evolving. You can still call yourself a UX designer, or if you're really graphical, you can switch to screen design and layout. You know, that's a really special thing. But this experience design, which involves temporal design, right? It's like you are designing an experience over time. If you think about how AI works and how more and more AI systems have memory and they get to know you, which has, you know, pros and cons. But that's the direction it's all heading. You got to think about designing systems that evolve and having a UX that evolves. But your UX also needs to deeply connect to your business goals and or stakeholder goals. All of it connects. And to me, that's just product design. You can call it product experience. You can call it game design. You could call it whatever you want. But this is the age where we're all designing products on top of evolving systems. That's my big aha takeaway. And I'm here to help people learn how to do that and make the shift into system design and temporal design.
Yes, I was, wow. I don't know what to
What do
say.
you guys think? I want to know like what's running. I really want to hear from you. How does this connect to your daily life?
You can open mic or chat to the audience. In
Do
my
you
case,
have
yes,
something directly? Is it Nahir? Or how
yes,
do you pronounce your name?
Nair, Nair.
Nair. Okay.
Well, in my case, and this last month, I was reading about this product experience, and the first thing I thought it was like you said, it's product design, and I was always a product design, but I didn't notice since my first steps in UX, I was reading about metrics, business metrics, and I'm just a graphic designer, so it was new for me, but I was already designing a product. So in that way, I approached to gamification because I thought, well, can I create a compelling experience besides the screens, and that will take me to your job and the behavioral student. I think that we are experiencing this transformation that it was going to be like this way. And I was thinking while you were talking and about the gamification that is often reduced to adding points and badges and talking when you said that UX is more about the screens, it's not anymore about screens. Maybe in gamification, we are talking about just points and badges, and this is killing motivation and killing gamification per se, maybe, no? I was thinking about that.
Oh, and that's been true for a long time in gamification. Gamification came up like 2010. There was a big wave of companies, and every one of them hired me, right? Because I was, again, early, but they all focused on the points and badges and streaks and this and that. And a lot of the reason was, let's talk incentive. I mean, if you want to cut through all this, it fundamentally comes down to understanding how to use incentives. That's a really good focus. So companies that have a platform that they want to sell to people that implements game mechanics will focus on the game mechanics and say the game mechanics solve the problem because they're incentivized to. It's really simple. You guys get it? I saw that again and again. And I saw it fail over and over and over and over again. It occasionally would succeed. What was different about the times it succeeded? There was someone on the team who was using the mechanics to support an experience where you would help somebody achieve their goals, make progress. So in our programs and in the masterclass that we're running in July that's coming up, we start, and this is new in the last year or so, we start any program, whether we're working privately with a game studio or startup or we're teaching in our class, we start by talking about who is your customer, what does it mean for them to make progress in your product, and how can you connect that to your journey? And we have a detailed progression design module that gets you to step through from your customer's internal motivations and what progress means to how you're connecting that to your core systems and also your gamification. The problem with just thinking about mechanics is now you're not thinking about systems. Really, it's like you're kind of thinking about systems. Oh, there's a point system. But, you know, I did it too. When I started in on this, I was like, oh, I could just do points and then put some stuff, badges on the points, and that's kind of like levels. And you know, it's like really fun. But that always gives you an initial spark of engagement and then long-term confusion. It doesn't give you long-term engagement because it's not connected to what your customers care about. And there's a way to connect it. You can say, well, that's nice, but how do you connect it? That's why we have this whole progression system design module, because once you wrap your mind around that, it's the backbone of your gamification. All the mechanics go to support that. And our storyboarding tool helps you visualize it and make it specific so that you can iterate, show it to your team, show it to your client if you're doing gamification, show it to the people that you're targeting. That's how you actually know something is going to work before you ship it. But all of that is, we call it designing a journey, right? But it really comes back to this very simple idea that if you leave this with one thing, I want you to take this and just apply it to what you're doing. If you can understand what it means for your customer to make progress within the app, game, marketplace, campaign that you're building, right? Within the thing that you're building, that doesn't start with mechanics. Make progress means earn points. No. What do they care about? Why are they there? How do they know they're getting closer to the reason they're there? Or just making progress can be completely on the back end. It can be your algorithm on the back end getting better at serving up the right personalized content. There's a lot of different ways to make progress. If you understand that, and you can validate that by storyboarding it and showing it to people, everything else about your gamification project snaps into place.
Yes. Thinking about that, I was remembering the mastery path that you mentioned in your book, and you have to create this journey for different kind of users in this year of use. Maybe the first use of the app or the product, it's not the master user of the app, no?
Right. Well, that's, again, designing with a temporal lens. Over time, people change over time as they use your app. And so as product designers, a lot of us are good at, say, onboarding, because it's so important. It's so incredibly important. And the marketers might take care of discovery, like driving people into the funnel, right? We're going to do onboarding. And that's great. But if you don't have a re-engagement loop of some kind, onboarding just drops people into okay, now what do I do? So that re-engagement loop, as a game designer, that's where I would always start. That's what I learned from game design, was start with what they call the core loop, or finding the fun, which is get the thing that someone does over and over and over and over again, get that working, and get it working so that it stays interesting over time. Just that core loop. If you apply that same product to what you're doing, work backwards from that, onboarding sets you up to go into the core loop, and it's a different lens. Mastery is, what about people that master your systems? What about your regulars? What about your enthusiasts, right? All those people, every product has some. What do you have for them? Sometimes it's an extra paid tier. Sometimes in a game, it's a new kind of game to play. You go from grinding up your RPG levels to kind of playing a capture the flag game. A lot of MMOs do that shift. There's different, you can become an editor, or you can become a highlighted poster and a message board. There's a lot of ways that you can offer the people who are the most valuable active users something different that leverages their energy.
Can I ask a question there about that?
Yes.
I was just
Sure.
about to say something. What happens when the proposition value of the app, or where I'm working, for example, I'm working in a travel agency. isn't enough for the users. What can we do as UXers wanting to gamificate the experience to engage the users? I work in the loyalty team, so that the engagement is the most important thing, I think. But we see what we are offering in terms of benefits isn't enough for the user to feel attracted.
So what you do, go ahead, keep talking.
No, I meant that how can we create a successful experience in terms of engagement when we don't have maybe the proposition value, or I don't know if you call it like that, for the user. I mean, the user buys a ticket and gets points, but the truth is that it's a small amount of points. The discounts are little, like 10%. It's not very important. It doesn't represent. It isn't motive for them to keep coming back. How do we cross these two things, the UX and the think about an experience when the user is using the app, but from the product team or the marketing team, there isn't enough proposition value to them. I don't know how to say it. It's enough for the user. That's what I mean.
Who's talking? I don't see the face of the person talking in my view.
Here I am.
Oh, there you are. What kind of company is this? What you said?
It's a travel agency.
Okay, so you have a travel agency and you have a loyalty program that's not an airline loyalty program. It's just a travel agency loyalty program. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a stacked loyalty program that's very underwhelming, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just speaking plainly.
Yeah.
So, and it's a travel agency, and what you want is you want your customers to keep using your travel agency versus others, right?
That's right.
Because they're one click away from other travel agencies.
Yeah, people are searching for better prices.
What?
People are searching for better prices at the end.
So the reason I'm asking all these questions is that your model is going to determine a lot of the answer to that question, along with who your customers are and what motivates them. Those are the pieces of the puzzle. So your model is, and are you a travel agency that competes on price? Do you advertise that you're super low priced? Is that why people use your travel agency?
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Why would people use your travel agency? Where do you play in the market?
I think.
Are you budget price competing on low price? Are you more for business travelers who want great service? Where are you in the market as a travel agency?
I think some of them trust the company.
The brand.
It's not about the price, but the trust, the confidence.
Okay.
They won't get. ¿Cómo alguien si me puede ayudar? Estafado, ¿cómo se diría?
Right. Okay. So that's
it's like a bait.
Got it. So their position is, I'm not going to risk saving a few bucks. So I'm not going to risk saving a little bit of money. I just need peace of mind. It's simple. So maybe they have a little bit more money and they're busy.
Yeah.
Like
and
that.
they can buy the flying tickets, the hotel, the activities to do when they get there. You have the whole thing over there. It's not just flying tickets, you know.
Right. So so that's the basics of how you're going to tackle this, which is, who are your customers and what do they care about? What do they care about most, right? Why do they stick? So you want more customers like that is what you want. The people who are always searching for the lowest deal, you could chase them, but that seems strategically like you'll never really get them. You might get that, like you won't get them for loyalty. So those aren't your market. Those people are not your market. So that's thing number one. So who is your market? It's this other people, and you could build on that market. And what do they care about? They care about trust. They care about convenience. They might care about a level of service. So what does a journey look like for them? Imagine, and here's where you can get into iterating between what you as a company want to put in front of people and what people actually care about. You could do some targeted interviews to find out what people care about. Let's just form a hypothesis first based on what you already know. And then we can test that hypothesis with these interviews. Okay, makes sense, Juan?
Mm-hmm.
So the hypothesis is, okay, these people care about service, convenience, and peace of mind. Okay. And that's what's going to make them stick. They already do airline rewards. And so we just copied airline rewards, but made it stupid and anemic. So there's two ways you could go. You could try to build on that. You could build on that loyalty thing, and there are ways to do it. Or you could just say, okay, start by saying, put that aside for a moment. What's the journey? What is the end point? What is the light at the top of the mountain that people are heading toward? And then what does it mean to make progress? So let's just make something up that might be wrong, and then we can iterate towards something that's right. I've got an idea immediately. What is your idea? What do you think, Juan? Just make hypothesis.
Well, I think the goal for them is to travel. All experience of traveling. They don't care if they, like you said, if they have to spend some more money, as long as they are, peace of mind, like you said, and they know they're gonna make their travel, they're gonna have a great experience, and they're not going to have any problems.
Are they already getting 24/7 concierge service? Could that be an upgrade?
It might. It depends on the tier you might have it. Yeah.
Yeah. So think about what these people care about. They're going to care about the experience of travel. Part of that is booking the travel, booking the itinerary, taking care of it all, right? Okay. How about once you're there? Think about, what people already do. Oh my gosh, there's a gift and a note in my room, right? That's an experience moment in travel. There's oh my gosh, after 5 trips, they gave me a complimentary blah. There's all kinds of ways that you can structure the steps and the progress toward what it means to be, to travel with, unexpected delights or peace of mind or whatever it is. And I'm just making this up. Like if you and your team took our master class, we would go deep on this and work through it and create and test ideas as storyboard. Like that's kind of where it's at. Why would you want to do that? Because you could get a small handful of just right people that represent these your ICP, ideal customer profile. These people, like we're discussing them, we're talking about them. There's real people. But rather than going to them and saying, hey, what do you think about this or that? You can go to them and say, we're considering several different approaches, and we're going to run you through these and just listen to you and how, if this connects to what is important to you. But if you can figure out what's important to them, you can design a progression system layered onto your loyalty system that's connected to what they care about, that isn't just a copy of what airline loyalty programs do, because that's actually, especially if the points aren't worth much, I don't think that's doing anything for your brand.
Amy,
Maybe it is, but like, you maybe rethinking what a loyalty program should look like for your company could be a really interesting exercise, especially whether you do it through a masterclass. You can also just like buy a book or go to a workshop later this summer or just whatever. But if you can get your whole team engaged in this, it would be really, and there's probably people that have a lot of knowledge of your end user other than you, right? So that's the thing, is to design a journey. And it's not every moment in the journey, but it's like the big beats. It's not like points. And what is it? What journey are you taking them on? Is it a journey of education? Is it a journey of appreciation? Is it a journey of, the little luxuries that make someone feel rich? Like, there's different journeys you can take people on. Do you guys, I see nodding.
Yes, I was thinking about in your book, returning to the interview. In your book, you talk a lot about the super fans and how the super fans helped the teams to build really engaging systems. The question is, how can we as UX designers convince our teams and stakeholders of the need for a super fan-centric approach, maybe at the beginning of a product development? And what kind of delight signals should we look for in these users to know we're on the right track? We are on the right track, sorry. Because I think it's a very interesting concept, the super fan.
Yeah, if you're working on a more mature product, it's very similar to ICP, ideal customer profile. Now that gets bastardized and used in weird ways and enshrined as a certain persona that doesn't make any sense. So like with Agile, right? A lot of it's how you use these tools. But the super fan is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, let's take Juan's travel product. In his case, the super fans are going to be people who use this travel agency repeatedly, who fit the profile, or people that fit the profile he's talking about that don't yet use this travel agency, who are actively looking for ways to make their experience better. The most important filter on any super fan, and I'd love to hear from you either in the chat or just verbally, how this connects with your projects. The filter for how do you find super fans, some of it's demographic or psychographic, right? They might be certain ages in a certain country, maybe male or female, maybe they have a certain job or marital status or blah, blah, blah. Those are certain ways you can narrow it down. But they travel and enjoy traveling and want peace, if we talk about the profile that Juan laid out, then those people we understand there's a group of people that exist in the world that are like that. There's a subset of those people who are dissatisfied with their current experience, looking for something better. Maybe there's people looking for a travel agency, right? That would be incoming clients. But there's also the current clients, people that have used the agency more than once. Those are two cohorts that have similar descriptions. How you find them is you create a screener that reflects that and run it in targeted places. And part of our tool that we built, Journey Maker, actually builds a screener for you, because that's hard to do, a screener that screens for that kind of behavioral stuff. So we give you your first pass. We also give you synthetic personas. Not to skip this step, but what we've discovered, and this is very controversial, what we've discovered is that, yeah, you can recruit people right away and talk to them and like learn from them and implement what you learn from them into an idea and storyboards and show it to them. But you can also create synthetic personas and create storyboards and then just show the storyboards to the people, and you get essentially the same results. So we use synthetic personas not to replace user research, because I don't think it does, but to help you, whoever is strategically building out their product ideas or their gamification journey, to help you quickly create a first draft that you can iterate, show to the team, change, tweak, even before you've talked to any users. Part of why we did this is because of exactly your first question. How do you convince stakeholders to do this work? So, if your stakeholders don't think you should talk to users, you have problems I can't solve. Like, that's so backwards. But a lot of stakeholders maybe want to do it maybe they like, why don't they want to do it? Do they think it's too expensive? Do they why? Do they just want their idea to be puffed up and shipped and don't want it to be challenged? There's different reasons stakeholders don't want you to talk to users. If they think it's too expensive, you can show them how it's cheaper with AI, for instance. If they don't want to do it because they think it means XYZ and a 2-month anthropological study because they were at this other company and that's how they did it, you can disabuse them of that notion. But a lot of people are in a hurry. So one of the things a lot of stakeholders say, why can't you just do this with AI? I heard there was this with AI, right? Like, that's something you might hear. And it's very popular these days. Well, it turns out there are terrible things to skip that will just lead you astray. But there are really good uses of AI that speed you up and save you boatloads of money. And one of those is using synthetic users to help you ideate so you can put ideas that make sense in front of real users much more quickly than you could otherwise. Did that make sense?
Yes, a lot. And I will remember the part when you said AI make this cheaper, because the stakeholders love cheaper things and the use of the AI lately. So we can in that way convince them to discover this powerful tool that is gamification.
Also, I'll tell you one thing. If you learn AI tricks, I've seen stakeholders be very impressed by that, and then they feel educated. And so showing people, when people say, why do you need to use user research? You can say, I've used AI to actually create something that we can get everyone on the team, including you, feedback on even before we show it to users. And we've put everything we know about users so far into this, and it's probably going to save us 4 weeks of our team's time, and we can do a user study that'll cost under $300 or something like that, right? That's a real story. So yeah, you can use, we've been very focused on helping our clients, designer clients. We work mostly with teams, but also individuals, helping them do work faster and smarter with AI, just in any way possible. And some people are looking for jobs. It really helps them get jobs. Some people are trying to get resources internally. It really helps them. And so that's a lot of what our angle is about. But there's things AI can't replace yet. If you, for instance, let's say you had a user journey and you wanted to just run synthetic personas on it to tell if it was going to work or not before you shipped it, I think that would be a terrible idea, because AI will never tell you anything new. It's trained on data and it's a pattern matching system, essentially. So AI can always give you a really good sounding synthesis with a few things wrong.
Great.
So we have some hands raised.
Yes. Janina.
Hi, I'm gonna open camera now. You see me? Yes. Hello. Well, great content. At the moment, I wasn't expecting all of this. It's clearly you have a lot of experience in gamification. Thank you very much for being here and sharing your knowledge. I have a question. When we were talking that you have to convince the stakeholders that gamification can be good, a good strategy for fidelity, etc. In my case, my stakeholders want to do gamification, which is great, but they are like, well, this can be fun. We can do this and this and this, and I was like, okay, but it's not that simple because we can lose money, we can lose time, development time. And I was wondering, when you have a serious system and confidation. I remember you said that it's important that you sometimes in some projects you felt like they were spying the U.S. citizens, and in my project we have confidential data that you manage for people, and I was wondering how you can implement these gamification strategies to that, because I think can be great. You can make this tedious work more attractive for the user that is using the platform. And I don't know, I was wondering, maybe it's a basic question, but I want to take this opportunity to educate and to share what I know and to justify why I say it's not that simple. But I don't know what to say because I don't really know what we can do for that kind of system where you cannot. It's a thin line because you can't. You can't. It cannot be a game, you know, because it's a serious system, and I don't want the both things to get confused and the user to get confused as well, and to say, okay, what is this? Is it can I trust in this platform because it looks like a game? How do you balance both things?
Almost nothing should look like a game.
Okay.
So I have some videos on my YouTube channel that address this in a lot of detail. There's a lot of myths around gamification that, again, I bought into every one of them at one point because we all learn and grow and try things. And a lot of us have worked with clients, right? And on projects where people hold those myths. But if what you're trying to do is infuse non-game products with the engagement of a game, the idea that something should just look like a game is silly. Most things shouldn't. I gave you the example of the TikTok backend algorithm or the Netflix backend algorithm. Those don't look like games. But on the back end, they're doing all kinds of interesting things with systems. So I think as a follow-up, I'm going to send a discount code for our programs to you guys so you can, make it a lot easier. And I'll send you a few gamification videos. I have one of 7 myths to pop. But how do you convince people? It's tricky, right? If you've got a boss that just thinks, oh, we'll throw mechanics at it, like, again, unless you bring me in to somehow talk sense into them, I can't, it's just, they will lose money finding out that that's not true. That's all. It's like, bummer. But sometimes like I have had people want to sign up. A lot of times the thing I've seen change is somebody will come to me and say, I have this boss, but he's open to something interesting. We would like to sign our team up for your program or for a private engagement sometimes, right? And will you talk to the boss for 10 or 15 minutes about your program and about why his approach is going to lose so much money? Like, can you talk to him? And I'll do that if somebody's serious about engaging in one of our programs. I don't just do it randomly, right? But I have had big turnarounds that way. But it's there are a lot of forces and consultants in the world whose incentive is for people to believe that it's as simple as a streak and a few mechanics. I'm telling you, just hire me and I'll make the magic happen. There's a lot of people that are incentivized that way. So I just steer clear of it mostly. And then the ones who lose enough money find their way to me, and then we work together, and then they never do anything else. Like people I've worked with, they always start projects this way with a journey because it's just like it saves so much time. Did that make sense? So, you know, if you can engage with your team to get them to try this other approach, but you know, if your boss won't support it, I don't know what to say. Maybe send him a video. Who else has a question?
Shani, you're okay? Great. Well, Amy, I don't want to take more of your time. Thank you so much for this talk. And we have some questions, but maybe we can send Amy if she had time in the week to answer a couple of that. Sorry.
So just to tell you honestly,
Mhm.
Given how busy I am, I would rather spend a few more minutes now answering questions than try and answer them as a follow-up. Just being
Okay.
straight, I'm like pretty slammed, but I have a few more minutes now unless you have a hard stop.
Oh, thank you. We have Rocio who raised her hand, and we'd like to hear from her.
Hi, Amy. How are you? I'm glad to hear you. Thanks for the space and for your knowledge. I want to ask you, I'm on my last year of university, so it's a really basic question. But the thing is, if you were a student like me, what would you be your next step to study or to have a degree of? I'm trying to get to this word and understand how it goes. Thank you.
Build stuff. I mean, the best advice I could give is find a way to build things and ship things. Do it on the side, do an independent study, find someone to do it with versus a degree. I think there is no replacement for that. That's just my immediate response. Are you already building things? Yes or no?
I am, but I'm just starting. That's why I ask you that. But it's a good answer. Thank you.
Yeah. See if you can get an internship. You know, when I was in school, I did a lot of independent studies where I arranged something with someone, right? But there's just no replacement for it. It changes you. It really, and especially right now, do you want to be an academic or do you want to be in industry?
I'm kind of deciding already.
Yeah, if you want to be an academic, it's less important. If you want to be successful in industry, I think you need to be flexible and develop really valuable skills. And we didn't even talk about teamwork, which is just so critical. It's a whole other topic. But I would also say learn system design.
I got it.
There's different ways to do that, including my course. But I think I learned system design by taking a bunch of computer science courses, compilers, chip design, like there's all these things, and you just like end up having to work with systems. So that's how I learned it, but there's a lot of other ways to learn it. I think that just goes back to what I said at first about the skills that are needed in this emerging UX world that we're in. And also gamification. I don't think mechanics are going to cut it, guys. You got to be able to build and tune systems. What do you think?
That's
Do you
really
agree?
great. Thank you. I really agree. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, I think
Anything else? Get it in now. I'm happy to answer.
aprovechen.
Are we good?
I think we're good.
We're good.
So wonderful to I hope this was useful.
Very useful. Very, very useful. The rings were ring, ring, ring in my head. So
That's
thank you
so
much.
awesome. So it's interesting. Some of the folks who have taken our master class, and you can see them on the alumni page, specifically took the master class to practice their English. So we have graduates from France and Italy and Spain and Mexico. So that was really fun.
We have to train our English.
But I will see, I will try hard to get a Spanish translation. I think that shouldn't be hard. As soon as I'm going to talk to my partner about it later today and see if our team can execute that. And I'll keep you posted. I'll send you follow up. I loved connecting with you. I wish there had been more time for me to hear about you and what you're working on. But Juan, thank you so much for sharing. And Rocio and Yanina, thank you for sharing what you're working on. I love that.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. Well, have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.